Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the event where we're going to talk about AI a lot. I'm Ashok Manchana. I'm the CEO of ChatFin. I work on AI for finance, and I talk about AI and day out. But today I'm very excited to be part of this panel because now I'm with the folks who are working in the AI, working with AI, and also they have been answering all the questions about AI to their board, to their employees, to the vendors. So that makes this panel very exciting. And I will start with introduction. Introduce yourself.
Uh, Thank you, Ashok. Hello, everyone. I'm Julian Sifliku. I'm the Division Financial Controller for the Kroger Company here in Michigan, U.S. I got to say that I'm excited today being with you guys all, and I would say it's an honor. A little bit about me. A little bit, I would say that all my career has been in retail. I started working as a seafood clerk, and then I took some responsibilities running stores as a store leader. Then after that, I handled several roles in division office as in merchandising and operation capacity. And in the last 15 years, I'm locked in finance. And I started, I had different roles in finance as a financial analyst, and then as a assistant controller, CFO in multiple states around U.S. Glad to be here with you today and discussing the topics of importance of automating the traditional finance and driving growth. Thank you, Ashu.
Thanks, Jude. Teddy, can you introduce yourself along with what is the strangest way of you have seen using AI?
Thanks for having me. Hi, my name is Teddy Collins. I'm the VP of Corporate Finance at SeatGeek. We are a ticket marketplace in the US, and we've about a 15-year-old company. We have just under 1,000 employees, and over half of our personnel is kind of in the R&D function. So AI is top of mind for how we integrate that into the products and pricing services that we offer at SeatGeek. But excited to kind of talk about kind of the implications on the finance and the office of the CFO. I think we've definitely taken an approach where we're leveraging our partners like Brex to do a lot of the heavy lifting on the areas that are core to the ticketing products that we offer. I think some of the things I like to do on the weekend are just kind of read about all what's on the bleeding edge of enterprise software and finance. It's fun for me. So I love to always kind of prompting the chat GPTs of the world of kind of what's out there, how do they compare, kind of synthesize a lot of that large information into kind of just digestible bits for me.
Thanks, Teddy. Eric?
Nice to be here. Thank you, Ashok. And my name's Eric Joe. I'm the Chief Accounting Officer at Brex. I joined Brex when we were a little organization of around 65 people. Today we're 1,200. We're really happy to be sponsoring this event. Our business is to provide corporate cards to other businesses. So we're a corporate card issuer. We pair that with a spend management platform to manage all the spend for your corporate card. And we also provide banking and commercial treasury services to our clients. In terms of my background, before Brex, I was at Pricewaterhouse for 11 years. So worked my way through the ranks there and spent 6 years in New York, 5 years in San Francisco, but all kind of auditing multinational financial institutions. AI has been a big topic at Brex ourselves, like both for the product that we give to our customers, as well as internally within the accounting and finance org. So happy to be here today to discuss this.
And Eric, what is the strangest way you have seen AI being used?
So I'm going to go a different direction because we're probably going to talk about finance a lot. My kids like using ChatGPT, and what they like to do is they like to give it tough drawing questions. So it'll prompt ChatGPT to draw like one single kernel of corn. And it has a tough time. It just has a really tough time doing that. Like it'll draw baby corn, but not a single one. So it's pretty funny.
That's right. We all think AI is going to conquer the world, and still now it can't draw a simple thing at this point of time. I'm sure it's going to evolve in the future, but that's the current state of AI. Always, always giving us what we don't want, right? Or at least sometimes. So let's get started. And first question that I want to ask everyone is, and I think everyone is curious to know, is about now there's a lot of AI conversations happening in the organization, from board to the employee level with vendors. How are people within your organization reacting to this? Are we at a stage where, initially there are companies, there are mandates not to use any ChatGPT or any of the products within the company? But currently, after like almost 18 to 24 months, how are people within your organization reacting to it?
I can go first if you guys don't mind. And for the audience here, just you guys can see I'm surrounded by pros here. All of them are pros. They use AI for leading, and we in retail and kind of receiving end on that. But first, I'm going to say this, that automation process in finance, it's more like you see that it's not just a question of if, right? It's more like when, how you pursue that, how you develop that, how you sustain, the process that you have. And we know that, if you look at general IE, in a nutshell, it's like creating a new content, right? And ideas based on, how the user prompts is. So it's kind of giving the users, giving us, giving retail, giving finance, the new content and ideas, and, giving like a new output on analyzing, the large set of data that we receive and use spreadsheets and all that, and to find that what is the common pattern. Okay. For example, I'm doing an analysis, right, for, let's say, for any customer behavior. Okay, what is the common data for that group? How about, the state varies, is different from one state to another. And then after that creates the new outputs. So with this being said, let's say within the organization, certainly there is a positively, it's a positive way of accepting that, and in regards to any developments in AI as it relates to finance. So in this case, it's like the question, why AI? Why now, not later? Okay. There are a variety of reasons. And I'm going to say first, reduction of manual processes. Here in finance, I can tell you, we used to use a lot of manual process entries and all that. Now, not anymore. It's more like automatic, right? The reduction of human errors, I would say, as a result of, manual processes. Allocation of time. This is very, very important, folks. Allocation of time, that from manual, systems that we used before, we got plenty of time now to go in different direction, to go in planning, strategic planning, looking at what value need to add on the analysis, provide better data accuracy, and eliminate any errors you might find across. And finally providing, it needs to be, the financial statements needs to be reliable, and the assurance as well. And that has value in both private and the public or organization. So
Right. Yeah. Terry, how is your organization taking AI?
Yeah.
What are the
Yeah, I think when we think about like things we can do to be innovative at SeatGeek, it kind of comes down to like one or two things. How can we figure out how to sell more tickets, either for our customers, ticket sellers, our enterprise partners, or how can we do more with less? Like in the office of the CFO, like in general, like supportive of where we can allocate capital for the people who know how to drive product innovation to sell more tickets. But as far as being more efficient, I think we've really kind of been leveraging our partners. I'll kind of give an example and kind of shout out to Brex. One time where, before we used Brex, expense reports, people are filling out expense reports manually, everything's coming through 100% manual coding. And now with a partner like Brex, who's hyper-focused on leveraging AI to eliminate manual processes, over 99.7% of our entries come in coded exactly how they want to with the Brex rules engine. And they're using their hundreds of engineers to focus on problem statements like that. Our hundreds of engineers are working on how to make a delightful ticket buying and selling experiences. So I think across our kind of enterprise software suite, definitely taking a best of breed approach, and it's how can we answer customer questions more efficiently with our help desk software or our product feature request software, and with a different ERP and other planning softwares, really leveraging what's being done in the industries where people are working on those vertical applications has been super important. I think there's a lot of testing. There's definitely buy-in that there's something there, and we're trying a lot of things and doing it in a, I think, responsible governance fashion as well.
Right. And Eric, is there an AI transformation that is happening within your organization?
Yeah,
Brex, oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Eric.
no, I was going to just say that within Brex itself, certainly within the accounting and finance function, there are a lot of operations that we're doing a lot of testing with AI vendors on, or existing vendors that have now launched AI kind of capabilities. I don't think there's anything. Here's my take on generative AI as it stands today. It's taking robotic process automation that's existed for the last 10 to 15 years and making those processes a little bit more dynamic, so that they're not just successful 70% of the time, but they're successful perhaps 90% of the time. So I have the benefit of seeing like the polls here, like, and how people think, there's going to be a lot of help for flux analysis, AR, AP management. That's actually exactly what Brex in my team is working on right now. We're looking at AI support analysis, where the AI will look at the transaction detail from 1 month to the next and actually generate like just like in ChatGPT, and like what the explanation for the change is month over month. And that saves a lot of my team, like time on my team, from eyeballing basically the list and coming up with the write-up. And we just hand it off to FP&A to do the investigation with the business as needed. So that's just an example, but we're definitely looking at ways for the tool to save time on my team.
Right. Eric, particularly in your accounting and finance team, do you have a set AI roadmap at this point of time where you listed all your use cases and you're like, okay, let's try all this stuff?
I would say at Brex, we're not quite at the scale of company to kind of have like we're still growing a lot. I think that the way we work at Brex is still pretty dynamic. I have a set of processes that we think AI can really provide some ROI, and that's kind of our roadmap for the next 6 to 12 months. But beyond that, first of all, I think it's tough for me to even gauge where AI is going to be in 12 months.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to make a plan past that.
That's right. Yeah. Julian, do you have an AI roadmap in your organization?
Yeah, actually, Ashok, I can tag into what Eric said, and I'm looking at the poll right now, AI and AP management. Actually, I got an example of that, and exactly what Eric said. We don't know. He said 12 months.
Yeah.
I don't know what AI is going to be in 4 months. So there are things. So, but the roadmap, the way how we look at that is like, you set the stage first. Okay, the roadmap is like you set the processes, and then you follow along. You adjust, review, adjust. This is how that goes. As an example, let's think about, and this is AR and AP. Let's say that you have a team, right? And let's say you are the operational finance, like I am, okay? And you have a team of 6 business owners. It's merchandising, operation. You have HR, you have facility engineering, you have real estate, and you have IT. And then you say, okay, here's a task. We're going to introduce the AI, and we're going to build a roadmap. Okay? And then you start by saying, okay, first of all, we need to know, we need to introduce the task. Okay? What is the value creation? What is the purpose? What are we trying to achieve? So you set the mission, the tone from top. And then you identify the ability of the system to handle the task. What I mean by that, our friend will be IT, right? Do we have enough capacity? How software is going to change? How about hardware? So all these questions So we have a business owner, we have a partner. And then after that, so we think AR and AP, right? Who is on the receiving end? The vendor community. So we have to introduce that to the vendor community. And then we gotta communicate to the business owners and the vendor community their requirements, okay, what we need to do. And then after that, the expectations. Then we have a timeline, and then implement and evaluate. We stay close to the system. Couple of things, very important. You got to build trust. We got to build trust in the system. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Okay. And then after that, what is the risk? What are the risks? The risk here is that everybody should follow the steps, and we should stay close to those steps along the way. Because let's say if a vendor doesn't understand very well what I need to do next, how should I register? Is it a new site? What do I need to do? And then it's going to create frustrations. And then it's going to create another thing that, I don't trust the system. And then you're going to be late in payments and all that type of stuff. So,
right.
so I think this is what I call the roadmap.
Right.
And you kind of follow that.
Okay. In my experience, what I've seen is a lot of companies have an intent to build a roadmap. So they want to list out the things that they can do, but there is not enough information right now to find out which use cases to prioritize, right? I think trying to explore, everyone is like, which use cases should we target so that we can get the best ROI, or which can actually where AI can add benefit to. Teddy, do you have any real world use case share with us where you automated some traditional or manual finance processes?
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of touched on some before with it's kind of, I think, a combination of robotic process automation, whereas there's some rules, like we know our data really well. It's like I've coming up on 10 years at SeatGeek, kind of know how things work, got to build a lot of things from scratch. But as companies get a lot bigger, a lot of more subsidiaries, a lot of different things going on, how can you take that structured rule set? And I think where AI will help is kind of giving those suggestions. So I think we see that in the Brex product with suggesting with one of their products called custom rules, kind of a if this then that, if the vendor is this, then we categorize it this way. So I think had a lot of success with automating all those types of, for example, like expense compliance, where hey, something that's maybe in policy but might look a little bit sketchy what's going on. I think we've had a lot of success with the Brex assistant, where we'll just message like a chatbot will message the person to say, hey, can you give more context, so that when a accounting or finance admin will go in and kind of review expenses, for example, kind of that work has already been done. So really flagging anomalies. I think we're definitely taking all those lower hanging fruit. And I think where I'm excited to see that go is kind of getting into the suggestions and the planning aspect as well. So kind of playing around with our financial forecasting, where we have our own, for example, internal machine learning models, and kind of coupling that with some of our third-party partners as well is really, really exciting.
Oh, very nice. And Eric, do you have some of the use cases that you can share that you're trying within your organization? Eric, you're on mute.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't want this to be a product pitch session, but I think the biggest AI impact that my organization has felt is actually through our own product. So we're a big user of our own product. We're a corporate card issuer, and everyone gets a corporate card at the company. And one of the nice things about Brex is that we actually automate all the compliance. And so we use generative AI so that when our system or our spend platform is being used to manage your compliance, it actually links to your calendar and actually search through the data available to it to write that memo. So it'll see that my lunch is with this person, and then it'll say what the lunch is for in the memo, and it'll also automatically include all of the attendees at the lunch. And so it just takes away, I mean, for me personally, like it might not be that many times a month, but for some of our sales folks, it can be really meaningful time saver versus doing all that work at the end of the month. That's one example. I mean, otherwise, like, I mentioned a few things within the finance team that we're launching right now, and that's on the roadmap.
Right. See, I worked on many projects. I proposed and ran many process changes, transformation projects in my career. And always when we propose a project, we say, we're going to spend this much money and this is potential ROI on the project, right? Whenever there is an attractive ROI, usually leadership signs on it and says, this is good to go. But is it the same process that we are following right now for AI? Because I think one thing that is very definitive in all of our mind is, and which is little different from other technology changes that happen, cloud technology, SaaS, and all, is we're very definitive about AI is going to make a significant impact on how we work, right? So how is AI being perceived in terms of the ROI, all the AI projects? Teddy, are you doing of the ROI calculation for all these AI projects that are going on?
All right, so we'll promise this the end of the Brex commercial, but they have an insights tab that does some of those calculations for us from a time saved, and also kind of compare
Yeah.
to how you compare it to other comparable companies. So yeah, so I think right now it's kind of more in the time, to sell more tickets or do more with less. It's more of kind of time saved. So it's a combination of, okay, we can support SeatGeek that's growing from a revenue profile with the same size finance staff, which is great. But also I think where we want to do is, hey, where can we automate so that we can have those human conversations with our business stakeholders and not be downloading data from different databases and doing spreadsheet reporting. So where can we automate so that we can do the strategic and the more value add activities with our business partners?
Have you done an attribution of revenue increase or efficiency gains because of generative?
At this point, no, but I think when we're kind of in the testing phase from some of the kind of internal, like for example, our engineers are playing around with what type of assistance on the different coding platforms would be useful from like a co-pilot perspective. So I think that's early. We're kind of in pilot phase, but I think the way things are priced right now, kind of any even single-digit percentage increase in productivity is really high from an ROI dollars perspective, because that's our people are our number one asset, and then which means our people's time is super important as well.
Right. And Eric, how about I know you're well known for great processes. So how are you dealing with the ROI calculations for any of the AI projects?
So this cycle where we're looking at AI improvements to existing processes, I kind of look at it similar to when we were moving towards cloud in the old days. Like for instance, like a procure to pay system, right? Like, or a process, we've had that for years, decades, even before cloud. But then when the cloud software came, that was kind of a takeout for some existing software. We're looking at that for a few of our processes. So at the end of the day, what it boils down to, I have an existing tool that I use for procure to pay. There are a lot of manual components that I still use as a result of based on that tool, and that vendor may not have as extensive of development in the AI front as I would like. We are exploring some other tools that may, for instance, automate our invoice matching to POs, and ultimately, right, here's how I think about it. I pay X for existing. The new tool does more than my existing. Oh, by the way, it's cheaper and it's going to save my team time. So I don't do the math, but qualitatively, it's like, let's assume there's proof of concept that we can achieve there. And so we're live on looking through those proofs of concept across a number of our processes.
Right. But for all these projects, how are you maintaining oversight and controls? Is that on your mind? Do you need a new kind of controls, or is it like existing process good to go?
So the way I think about, and I was an auditor for 11 years, and I audited a lot of public companies. So it's obviously really important to have the right financial controls in place so that the reporting we do is complete and accurate, not just for GAAP, but for all stakeholders, right, including like our monthly management pack and all that. It's all reliant on the same information. I've thought about this question a lot. I think I have the benefit of being a private company and having a little bit more leeway in terms of the number of controls and documentation that I have in place. I think at the same time, I obviously care that the data being produced by the system is complete and accurate, certainly with AI involved. And so I treat it just like any other process. I do the proof of concept. I run the two systems in parallel. I got to get to a place where I feel comfortable that the outputs are reasonably accurate enough for me to go live. And then depending upon where things stand with like IT controls and all that for these new vendors, I'll probably layer on with some kind of like look back or detective control to ensure that the results are reasonable. I don't know how else to. The thing is, I'm not going to stop progression, and I'm not going to stop saving money and time on my team because of this for now. Yeah.
Right. And Julian, have you seen? What's your thoughts on this? Any new controls needed for ongoing AI projects?
Again, this is a good question. It's an important question too, especially when you are a public company, right, Trader? Because you look at that in perspective, you say, okay, what is the fundamentals? What are the fundamentals here? In this case, like Eric was saying, AI is no different than other important, topics when it comes to controls. And you say, AI must be implemented bearing the compliance with any requirements, with rules and regulations. You got SOX, you got a lot of things there that drive that need for auditing, and also you got to consider the audits and internal controls. These are very critical fundamentals, for a successful AI implementation. I'll say that looking at this. The question itself I think it's important that we should have a regular cadence, like everything else, on evaluating, how reliable, what is the integrity of the process, okay? And also being open-minded that, improving the process along the way. And by keeping up with demands, of course, and the greater value. As an example, I'm gonna keep it very, very simple. In retail, we do inventories, right? And I'm pretty sure you guys, I don't know what kind of form you have, but we do inventories. And let's take fresh departments that we have. Okay, we know that what drives inventory is units and cost, right? So the cost is impacted, we know very well, supply, demand, and inflation. So if you take inventories every 4 weeks, every 5 weeks, every month, whatever it might be at that time, we should make sure that we have a system in place to evaluate the cost, make sure the cost is actual and is relevant, okay, every 4 weeks. So this is how I see that.
Right. And Teddy, what are you seeing in the controls perspective?
Yeah, I think the most important part of controls is just kind of be aligned with the internal audit team or the external audit team of what are you trying to do, and can you go back and see either what happened, for example, when thinking about expense coding or things that happen, is there a way to have some type of control of what did we think would happen? Can we know what actions were taken? Can we see who wrote the rules or who wrote the, is there an audit log of configuration changes with the system? So I think just the most important thing is kind of thinking thoughtfully and holistically of what the control environment looks like, and then just really doing that stakeholder engagement to say, hey, what's the goal here? Because some of the things are zero sum where, okay, some things could be more automated, less time for the business stakeholders, more time for the internal audit teams. So there's puts and takes, but just really understanding what's the end goal and where are you comfortable with. To get that more efficiencies means like maybe we're doing less manual review, and if there's ways to kind of measure measure what you're getting and mitigating the risk. I think there's
Yeah.
definitely like some calculated risks that can be taken.
Right. And what are the potential risks or challenges that, associating with anything with AI right now, right? I mean, if you take traditional finance, we are very process oriented. We double check, triple check everything. So with AI now coming into all our accounting and finance process, what are the risks and challenges that you're seeing?
Well, I could say, well, I'm accounting adjacent. Eric can speak to this. I am a fan of accurate financial statements. So
For
yes,
sure.
everything can be fully automated and things can show up in your ERP. But do you have it can be kind of automated going in, but what's like the right place to make sure things are showing up where they should be and entries are correct? And that's where there's that kind of blending between what the machines are doing versus where humans jump in. So I think for us, kind of on the FP&A side, our best friend is the budget. We can think about chart of accounts design and really is like checking variances, like seeing where things are going, because I think we have the benefit of, okay, we're more of a startup, still sub 1,000 people. Are the things we're doing can that scale to a 10,000, 20, 50,000 person company where
Yeah.
these kind of automated processes can really work at scale.
Right. And Eric, what are you seeing as potential risks right now?
So I would equate the use of an AI tool as almost like it is almost a manual process still, except the machine's doing it, if that makes any sense, right?
Right.
So if I had someone reviewing and I like an order to cash, kind of like making sure that the invoice is being booked to my revenue correctly, someone's eyeballing it, they're going to transpose the number, they're going to try to see like which revenue account it should be booked into, etc. If an AI tool were to do that, because it's a probabilistic model and it's
Yeah.
not being done in like fully automated way with certainty, frankly, I would expect the same detective or review controls that I would have if it was a human doing that work. Now, the benefit is that the original person that may have been doing the work, they could be doing something else. Maybe they're doing the review now instead of the prep. But I don't think it takes away the need for the right financial controls and review. It's not like other tools where if it's completely automated, like I kind of just rely on the SOC 1 and the automation component. That's I think the biggest mindset shift with using this tech.
Right. And I remember you mentioning about managing expectation as the biggest challenge. Oh, can you expand on that?
That's part of it. I think that's the secondary effect to what I just said, which is, some folks, they think that AI will be at towards all these problems. I think it's still so early in terms of what it can do and how accurate it is, that it's important to level set with certainly executives on like what the real ROI will be in the short term, and frankly the fact that like long term it's still uncertain what like I can't quantify it, so it's tough to tell people exactly what we're going to get out of it over. We talk about 4 months from Julian, talking about a year from now, certainly 10 years from now. It's hard to say.
That's right. Yeah. And with all this risk, how do
Well, and again, this is a tough question. And I'm going to take it a little bit nuts to reality, or maybe put the elephant in the room. Think about, this is a process, right? AI that, is going to save his time, and also implements process in a faster way, and evolves over time. Okay, and so it might be, like I said, evaluated and changed and keep up to the pace. So let's put the human factor here a little bit. I know, I've been, I got experience on new processes, either AI or some other process we introduced along the way, and people are from nature resistant to that. Say, okay, how about me? What is the impact? What's going to happen next? How am I going to Do I need to learn new skills? Do I need to do something else? Do I need to change? I can say, here's me today. I've seen so many changes, and what's exciting about that is you learn new skills. You learn how to develop yourself. Help me a lot, because now, from before doing manual entries, right now I save their time and use their time to do more analytical and strategic planning. So
That's right.
I'm a valuable, very valuable partnership to our executive team, to or any business place.
That's right. It's AI is like having an employee in our team. And once you have this new employee, you you tell them whatever it is, and also ask them to do stuff. And once they do it, you also double check it, because you still haven't built the trust to it. I think it's similar with the AI as well. You double check the output, and also make sure everything is right. Make sure this is what you have asked. I think that's the same process, probably can help in mitigating some of the risk. Now, if you see the poll on in terms of how many people are ready for AI, it's staggering. Like almost around 50% are ready to do it. Like if we give them a good AI tool, they're all ready, right? Uh, There is somewhat there are like 20%. There are very few people who said, they're less likely to use it. But now the question comes is, within accounting and finance teams, how are we going to leverage all this time saved? What are you seeing right now within your teams in terms of, like, when a person is saving some time on work, what are they using that time for? Are they using it for some other process? And what are you guys seeing? And
Yeah, I think it's first just things are getting more complex. Revenue recognition, lease accounting, like the environment, and presumably working for a growing company, it's going to get more complex. There's more work. So just kind of keeping up with that, I think probably in general, the office of the CFO is going to be more of the bottom of the barrel as far as like when that marginal role comes in. Is it going to be one more salesperson or one more engineer? And usually finance is towards the end there. And I think what when I think about earlier in my career of where the error resolution was around formula errors or waiting for Excel to for the model to calculate, because it's running different calculations. We kind of traded that in when we went to more automated feeds with different integrations, kind of traded those errors for, okay, this API is down, or this exception logic happened because it sees a new value and doesn't know what to do with it. And I think with AI, what we're going to do is, similar to some of the other points of Julian and others, of we are going to be thinking more high level, more analytical of what are ways where we can check that automated process. So like for us, like using the budget's like a great triangulation tool. We expected this to happen, and this didn't happen. So I think those are like some of the things that we'll be thinking about the most of. I'd say, and then when we do get those in control, maybe we can get 8 hours of sleep once in a while, one of these times as well. Which really maybe can be the end state.
that's right. Eric, what are you seeing in terms of the time savings, and how are you using it in your teams?
It's really funny, actually. We have been making a lot of improvements, and some are AI driven, but a lot of it's just like we're a growing company, and like we're still getting our processes in a automated setup, moving on from G Sheets. And I've actually seen more folks from my accounting team move over into FP&A. And so, yeah, so like it's a natural progression, I think, in some respects for a lot of accountants. And they were used to be doing the general ledger operations. They used to do a lot of the preparation work and the review. Once we got to a better place, they're actually moving on to, okay, now that the data being generated or work is more efficiently produced, they are actually spending time more with the business. Like now they're in FP&A, they're actually looking at these numbers and working with the marketing team or the sales team or our engineering team, and understanding more what's driving the numbers and being more strategic. One thing I will add is that's all I've been hearing. It's kind of like the finance function and the accounting function is being viewed more as a strategic arm more and more than ever before nowadays. And this all helps with going in that direction.
That's right. We have been implementing a lot of AI, and so far, what I've seen in my personal experience, I haven't seen any reduction of workforce in accounting and finance. But what I've seen is maybe the reason is usually all the accounting and finance teams are overloaded with work, right? They're already doing 120, 140% of what they are. So it is being reduced to much more manageable 100%. So that's what we are seeing right now, which is a really good thing. As Teddy said, now people can get 8 hours of sleep even during the quarter end or a month end close. It, on that note, Julian, what are the most important considerations when you're trying to look for an AI product? What are you looking for?
Well, Eric just said it. I mean, it saves time. And
Yes.
time, we know nowadays that, especially with how the world is changing, micro and macroeconomic environment, it changes like in a rapid space. So you look at for the time, and time now, by the way, now it's a fun way, and it's a fun thing to say that, you know what, finance is like at the center of the plate now, because strategically we are very important. We provide data. We look at, okay, what is my projections? What I'm projecting me to be in 3 months, okay, the business. What is the sales? How about EBITDA? How about gross profit that everybody was talking about? How that translates? What are some I would say any indicators? What is telling us? So provide valuable information to the team to make the right decision, and you got to follow along. So to me, time is the essence.
That's right.
And when I think about like the kind of FP&A maturity model or the types of activities we're doing, we've got like analysts, like the financial analysts, that's doing the work, closing the books, doing the budget. Then there's a storyteller element, and then there's an architect element where like we are just allocating time out of those analyst activities and really thinking about design of processes, systems, understanding their capabilities, understanding how to check things on the back end. And then once you do have like these automated processes and data and all these reports and all these scheduled jobs that can happen, what's the story in the numbers? There's no shortage of information, and the amount of data and capabilities and systems has really just kind of exploded over the last decade. So how do you create a story and insights out of all that data, besides just saying, the revenue budget was X and actuals are Y, kind of really getting into the business drivers and getting that overall cohesive executive and an investor relations story.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry, Ashok, real quick here, because Teddy said the right thing. I mean, now it's even more exciting to work in finance. Eric, nothing against you. I love accounting to death. Don't get me wrong, but finance is the place to be now.
I actually run corporate FP&A at the company, so. So when my team moved from accounting to FP&A, they're still on my team. It's just a different part of my org.
They still have to work.
Yeah.
Eric, in terms of again, are you bringing external AI? I know you guys build AI products as well, but are you bringing any of the external AI products, AI vendors, to work on your internal processes at this time?
Yeah, so I mentioned it before, but we're really close on one POC related to the flux analysis. And it's obviously really cool. Like right now we're doing the side by side where we picked up a few GL accounts and we compare the flux detail that my team manually prepared in G Sheets versus the text that they actually put together for the same GL accounts. And then we're giving the feedback back to the vendor so that we can tune the model a little bit to our own instance. So that's been ongoing for a couple of months. I hope that by the end of the year it'll be done, and that next fiscal year this process will be up and running. It's not overnight. There is a lot of model tuning that's happening with this product right now. Fortunately, it's like an early stage company, and they're willing to do the investment because this kind of work is going to help with the product for all their other customers. and then sorry, I might have. What was the original question again?
Again, if you're bringing these external vendors, what's your important considerations, right? How are you selecting that?
We are, one, it's a conversation. Two, it's how real is the product. And then three, it's kind of putting your, I don't want to say money where your mouth is because we're not paying for everything yet, but investing the time. And if they're willing to invest the time as well. And that's what we're doing. The thing is, we're not seeing that same level of research and development from a lot of the larger incumbents that we use. And we use a lot of large incumbents.
That's right.
Business systems at the company. And so that's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah, I think when we've been thinking about our finance stack and product stack more comprehensively, taking like that best of breed approach, I think when we were looking for some vendors, like, do they have an open API? Can we go in and plug things in where those native capabilities maybe aren't evolving as fast, and you can kind of try things and run it through a sandbox, run it through these parallel processes, and just trying to find that measurable win. And also acknowledging that everything's a negotiation, and you don't have to sign up for a six-figure, three-year deal and kind of bet the whole farm on something. So like everyone's really willing to try to get the account, like do that proof of concept, paid or not paid, and in order to kind of prove and get that partnership going.
That's right. And I've seen a comment, someone said, I love accurate financial statements too. I think that summarizes what people are looking at AI tools in terms of, first of all, I need it to be working 100% accurate, right? Maybe there may be a lot of fancy functionalities, but end of the day, the outcome is what defines in terms of the most important factor there. If you audience have any questions, please put it in the chat so the panel can answer. And there is one question about what about ethical considerations within oversight and controls? My personal take on ethical consideration, at least for an enterprise product, unless it is, let's say if it's a credit rating using AI, where there is actually a big ethical consideration factor that you have to think about. Are all the parameters being considered before making a decision, things like that. But for enterprise products, how is it relevant? I know this question comes again and again in a lot of other chats as well. Is it relevant to talk about ethical considerations within enterprise products?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Like when we evaluate vendors, like we have our own business principles, and let's think, for example, like we are always hiring hundreds of people a year, and we have heard stories. We don't do this, but like a AI screening for resumes, and so we do human review it in that case. But if we were to do that, like really go in and say like, hey, can this tool in practice kind of match what the spirit of what we're trying to do for our employees and customers? So I think we evaluate each. That's why each system, we have a discrete and separate process for every AI tool, because how is it using our data from customers? Is it touching customer data? Is it touching PII, personal identifying information as well? And we have business in Europe. Is it compliant with the laws of the European Union as well? So very carefully and with a lot of care and stewardship.
And I can add real quick here with one sentence that yes, integrity and ethics is the fundamental of any introduction of a new process. There is no question about that. And big corporation too has, they have a legal department too, right? That look at any contracts, anything like that. So making sure it's in the store compliance with ethics and integrity.
Right.
From a data storage perspective, like we deal with some PII, or personal identifiable information, for our customers because we are a creditor. And so, the storage of that data today on AWS versus the storage of that data if we were to use another enterprise system that includes AI, et cetera, I would expect the same kind of controls in terms of segregating that data from access from others that shouldn't have access, et cetera. So there's a little bit of like, I ethically, I don't know about ethically, but from a data privacy and security perspective, I expect the same level of rigor, no matter who the vendor is or what type of style the technology is that we're using. I really like Teddy's example about like recruiting, and like let's just use an example where you use a recruiting agency versus like an AI to sift through resumes. I think it's interesting that we're saying, is there an ethical consideration when the AI is making the judgment versus a human? Because the human also is biased, right? And so when you use an AI, yeah, it's going to have a bias based on how it was coded or engineered, et cetera. But it's kind of like you're just switching one bias for another. And so I kind of think that the controls that you need to have in place to manage the ethics or integrity of a process are kind of, they might be designed a little bit differently. They might be operated a little bit differently, but you still need to have those conceptual frameworks in place to manage. And so I guess what I'm saying is like, don't let this consideration of ethics necessarily fully stop you. I think you need to probably think about your conceptual framework a little bit differently. But those risks exist today, regardless of whether you're using AI or not.
Right. And one of the question that is being asked is about how to prioritize which tasks to automate first, and particularly in accounting and finance, right? Do you guys have any guidance in terms of which use cases should we target?
I can go first if you guys don't mind. It depends. It depends on the need that you have. You might need first to prioritize AIs and AP or AR, or if you do like let's say you have retail stores, right? You do a business case analysis, and you do like you got to do the spend capital on the remodels, and the probable introduction there might be more urgent than anything else. So depends what you're trying to achieve. Depends on what stage of the business you would like to introduce something.
Right. There's also a trial and error right now with all the AI. There might be some use that works probably perfectly with AI, and some might not be even a good fit for AI, right? So introducing that, there is also an experimental thing that we have to include before setting our roadmap on that specific. We're saying this is written in stone, my AI roadmap. I think we can take one more question. In terms of like someone asking, what are the potential challenges finance users might face when implementing AI solutions?
Tough. I mean, it's just a basic system, and implementation is tough. And you throw in, it's a new skill that I think we're going to have to develop as finance professionals. Of here's some something where a lot of PhDs with math and physics degrees are working on, and how can we make it relatable, and then kind of ensure those outputs are there. So it's engaging legal stakeholders and understanding how the data is going to be used, understand how it's going to fit into our stack and our processes. So I think the ways to mitigate that are just kind of the highlights of what we've been talking about before, of starting small and building from there. I think as far as like what we are going to go after, going to think about the finance activities as a pyramid, where we're going right now after the manual processes, the bulk coding of entries. Next it's going to be the journal entries, then it's going to be the budgets by cost center, and then revenue planning, and then in-state pricing strategy, deal desk review, things like that. So I think it's just gonna continue to get better and better, and I think right now we're more in the earlier stages and kind of moving up to that second level.
Right. Eric, have you seen any potential challenges finance teams might face?
I have the benefit of having been at the company for a long time, and we were a nimble 65-person organization. And so, what that means is really tough to build all these processes. You can start fresh every time. There's not really much change management if you're just implementing for the first time. But if you are at a large company that's been around for a while, that have processes from that were developed 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and you've just been running the same system for a while, I think having that change in the day-to-day can be very difficult. I think one change can be jarring in general. So that's just something you have to work through with your team to convince people and bring them along. I think the other thing is, upskilling. So now that there's time savings, there are these other asks that you have of the finance and accounting team. I think it's real. We haven't seen the change in workforce yet, but over time, my expectation with that, there are skill changes that need to be addressed.
Right. The one thing I think we all underestimate is the resistance to change and the change management part of it. And AI is significantly going to change how we work. And I think probably that's a topic for one whole another webinar about how to handle change management itself for all the AI projects. On that note, I think any final thoughts in terms of how the future is going to be for accounting and finance?
I can go first. Well, like any implementation, I would say, any new process that you have, right? I think the most important thing here is having the right attitude. The right attitude means that, am I willing to learn? Am I willing to change? Because if you don't now, you're going to do later. And if you don't now, and then you are behind the pack. So my 2 cents are: do not back off from learning. Be open to learn, be open to change. And one thing I can say is that skills can be learned, provided that you have the right attitude.
Right. I think we are out of time. Brittany, over to you.
Great. Well, thank you guys so much for such an insightful session. This does conclude today's webinar, and I want to thank everyone else who joined us for this fantastic virtual event. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you all again.
Thank you.